that's the good stuff. And then we get to choose who we let into our weird little worlds. You're not perfect, sport. And let me save you the suspense. This girl you met, she isn't perfect either. But the question is whether or not you're perfect for each other. That's the whole deal. That's what intimacy is all about.
Why don't you love me, Jenny? I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
Yeah.
What easy way? There is no easy way. No matter what I do, somebody gets hurt.
Would you stop thinking about what everyone wants? Stop thinking about what I want, what he wants, what your parents want. What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
I keep coming back to you. Ooh, I keep coming back. You put me through hell, but I just can't stay mad at you. Know me so well, but you don't even have a clue that I'm the one that cares the most tonight.
Improvise. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in this evening. We have another great show lined up for you. Sorry for the delay. Hello, my name is Gabriel,
Hi, and I'm Yvette Richardson,
and welcome to the Unwrap Love Show.
where we peel back the layers of love and relationships.
So,
Buckle up for love, everyone.
Okay. So tonight, we got a really great topic. Real quick, we had to postpone this one last week. I know we missed, but things beyond our circumstances. It was better that we did skip it than we did, because it would have been a disaster. But tonight, we are talking about rekindling the romance.
Yes, so our topic is, has the spark faded? So yes, we're talking about the fading word. A lot of people don't want to even think about that whenever they first get into a relationship, because everything's great. There's butterflies, everything is going perfectly. You get into the relationship, but then what happens when things start turning around? What happens when the butterflies turn into moths? What happens when things turn around? So you go from happy nights to lonely nights, separation, different couches, different beds. It can get pretty separate in relationships. So what happens at that point?
Yeah, but don't worry about. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get into that about how, hey, you know, things can sometimes cool down, but we're going to walk you through how to kind of rekindle those flames of romance between two people. It's not always the easiest thing to talk about, because these aren't the expectations that we think about when we get into a relationship, right? We always just think about all the great stuff, and, life happens, correct? I mean, we get to these points where things get very routine. So we're just going to talk about, like, what are some of the things that you can look for, as far as like knowing that maybe you are in signs of decline a little bit, and what you can do to turn things around. So it's just one of those topics that most people have a hard time discussing, because there's always one of two outcomes that can happen, and we're just going to talk about the first outcome that usually kind of leads you into, um, when you get into a new relationship, or even if you're in a existing one right now, right? That's the thing that we want to talk about, because it's hard. It's hard. I've gone through these myself, so
Yeah, so what's happened in your relationships where the spark faded? What happened?
so there have been times where things start out hot and heavy, right? We all get to that point. We feel sometimes it's an attraction, whether it's emotional or physical, with somebody, and things just really take off. And you start feeling, oh my God, like this could be the one. You get all these impressions going through your minds, all these wonderful thoughts. And as time elongates, a lot of these feelings, things start to change, because you start getting the external pressures and stressors of life that usually come into play. Work, if that's the thing, or if it's, you have a family, you have children, those things start coming involved. You have the things of bills and adulting and just living life that come into play when you're getting into a relationship with somebody, and even as it starts to extend even longer, these variables start becoming more and more present.
So is that what happened to you?
So
All of the
e-
variables?
well, some variables have come into play for me. um Part of it was um just, again, life coming down, like, hey, having to deal with children, right? I mean, I've been in a relationship with somebody who didn't have any children. So the disconnect there was kind of difficult on how to deal with just having a normal everyday kind of relationship where if I'd been with somebody who had kids, they would have more relatable kind of things that maybe they could understand. But coming from a point of not having that in your life, it changes the dynamic of a relationship, right? And it really can sometimes become burdensome upon someone who doesn't quite understand that. It's like, why can't you spend more time with me, or why can't we do this? Or, just, hey, maybe we have to plan things out differently because of these kind of things that are in our lives.
Did any of your conversations ever feel forced? Like you had to force a conversation to happen when it started to change?
Yeah, you do. I mean, I think that's one of the first things that becomes an indicator, right? Is that you start feeling things like silence start to happen because there are things that maybe you don't feel comfortable discussing in that part of your relationship. Maybe it's become a sticking point where you're talking with somebody, and part of it is trying to get them to understand your perspective and understanding the other individual's perspective as well, and trying to find some kind of compromise. And sometimes that can be difficult to find a middle ground for two people, and it kind of pushes sometimes it starts pushing people away, right? I mean, the first sign of you going down that path is, again, is a lack of communication, right? Things start getting weird, start getting awkward. You don't have the same kind of conversations you were having in the beginning. um you think,
You think it's something gradual that just slowly
oh,
creeps
yeah,
in?
you don't.
Or do you think it's like one day to the next things are different?
Yeah, it is absolutely gradual because you don't pay attention to it, because it happens just as quickly as things light up between two people. Those things start to it's a slight decline the other way, right? So everything ramps up so fast. You get to this point, everything feels wonderful, and then there's this slight decline. You don't quite feel
So do
it.
you think that you should point that out when you start to acknowledge it?
Well, again, it depends on the maturity of the individual or the two people that are in the relationship. Some people don't want to have that discussion yet. They might not see things as being different yet. Just because I have the feeling doesn't mean they have the feeling, but you do, as someone who say, I love communication as a way for us to connect. Once that starts to dissipate and move to in a different direction, yeah, you that's a intuition sign to say, okay, what is going on? Something's not jiving. There's not a vibe like it was in the very beginning, right? People will say this is the honeymoon stage. Like, you move past these things. Um, I just think it changes and varies for each individual couple. And, some people they're okay with the silence. So if that's not how it is between the two of us, like if we love to talk and then all of a sudden you're not talkative, I should know something's afoot. Something's not right. Where if it's between, say, the two of us, and we enjoy our silence, and it's just that's just us. It's how it's how we connect. We both love just being there in the quiet, and it's okay. We don't have to worry so much. So I think that's part of it. And then, when you get to a point of like spending time with the individual, right? Those things begin becoming a problem when you start finding a lack of it. I mean, in the beginning, you find ways, like, it is imperative that you find time to be with that person because they just draw so much energy and so much, just the attraction and everything that draws you towards them. You want to spend as much of that time with that individual as possible with that partner. And you're like, man, I love this. I love this. I love the energy between us. I love everything. That's
It's that new relationship energy,
yes,
the new relationship energy in the beginning.
right.
Yeah.
You feel that and you go, this is wonderful, right? You think you think it can sustain. And then sometimes again, the stresses of the realities of life set in sometimes in some relationships, and that stuff starts to wane, that energy, that those vibes start to become
Do you
different.
think a lot of people in the beginning, they put in all of their energy, they put in all of this effort, this time, and then they think, okay, well, now I have you. Now I don't have to put in as much time into the relationship because we're a couple now. Do you think some people feel that way?
Absolutely, they do. There's a whole. I think that's the big sell at the beginning, right? I think that's the whole part of like saying I feel you know, when you fall in love with someone or you feel like you're in love with an individual, um, because everything changes. Everything's so vibrant. Life, you know, the normal things that you see the air's sweeter, the reds are redder, the blues bluer. Everything just seems to change, and you have a different dynamic when you're in love with somebody in the very beginning. Um, and as you start living life and you start, you know, spending time with each other, and you realize, that's you took the words right out of the mouth. You start living somewhere, or start living with someone, or you start being with someone so much more that you take the time and the energy and the things that they've given you from the beginning for granted. And, you know, for someone who like say loves is that one of their love languages is like words of affirmation or something, if that stuff starts going away, like it changes the dynamic of how that
Mhm.
person feels. And all of a sudden, you
You start to, I think, expect it. So some people, I think, it's like, oh, well, they're saying it to me, and then you forget maybe, and kind of like what Yolanda is saying is you take each other for granted, and so you're like, oh, well, they're supposed to do that. That's a part of the relationship, and so you stop showing your appreciation. You stop showing, that person that you're thankful for, what they're doing in your life, and then yeah, start to become complacent.
Mhm.
So and then it creates that distance. Absolutely.
Right. And here, and I love this. As we were doing research on this, I found a couple of pretty cool statistics about people and having new relationships. What we call this new energy relationship, right?
Yeah. Approximately 70% of couples will break up within the very first year of dating. So, yeah, can you imagine like the first year, 70%? It doesn't even go and extend beyond 1 year.
That's right. And again, you know, you have this build up in the beginning, right? So it could be within the first 3 to 6 months, everything's wonderful, everything's great, and then the latter part of that time together, and just say for this year, things start to change. Um, this person starts seeing, or maybe it's the thing of just you have this filter very early on for somebody and not being able to see like all the red flags, all the bad things, and you start paying attention to those things a little bit more as time goes on, right? Those things start to come out of the woodwork, and you start noticing that hey, this person is changing, and in all reality, they didn't change. It was just how you perceive them and what they were showing to you in the time. So those things, yeah, they weigh a lot, especially in new relationships.
Yeah, and if you are in that situation where it's starting to fade, the way that our world and our society is today, people will think, you know what? It's not working. I'm going to move on and find somebody else. A lot of people don't take the time to say, well, what's going on in my relationship? What's happening? Can I rekindle that spark? So a lot of people, and I think that's why the statistic is so high at 70%, they're not willing to continue putting in the work. And so then they move from relationship to relationship to relationship and can't wonder they wonder why they can't find the right person for them. So something's going on in that relationship. And a lot of times, when you keep falling prey to that, then it's like, well, what's going on with this equation? Is it me? And I think a lot of people are afraid to kind of internalize it and look at themselves to figure out what is it that they're doing wrong in that situation. And instead they hop from relationship to relationship.
That's right. And here's another statistic, that living, when people start getting to that point of being in a relationship and moving forward with it, right? Let's just say they get to that point of getting past the 1 year mark, right? And they're like, hey, let's move in together. Let's take the next step. Um, After living together for 2 years, there's a 50 that statistic goes to 50% chance that that couple will either break up or get married. Think about that for a minute. Like within 2 years, um, half of these new relationships and half of these couples that have gotten together either take the plunge to get married and try to find their happily ever after, or it's time for them to move on. I think when we were talking about the new relationship energy, like it's it the there's not like a statistic, but they kind of say that it's last anywhere from between a year to 18 months that energy is there. So this kind of coincides with this, right? At about a 2 year mark, you're like, well, where are we? Like, is this person really the one for me? Are we really going to like move forward and talk about marriage, or are we just playing house together? And for some people, that's not what they're looking for, right? It becomes like it says, it paints a vivid picture of a watershed moment after 2 years.
Mhm.
Um, so is it commitment or separation at this point?
And marriage is a highly valued thing in America. 90% of people get married. So there's a lot of people that want and seek marriage. There's very few people that will just say, you know what, I'll live together with you indefinitely and we never have to get married. A lot of people, even today, it's a highly valued thing. Like people want to get married. And so, yeah, if you live together for 2 years and you take that risk of saying, hey, like, should we get married? And the other person says no, then that's why it leads into the breakup. Because it's almost like an ultimatum at that point.
Yeah, and it becomes something where it kind of leads into the next relationship if you decide to separate, right? You go in and go, man, I don't want to wait another X amount of years, right? You start um sometimes it causes some people to compromise like values and stuff because of the way that the relationship was before, and they sell themselves short, right? And all of a sudden, like, have you ever? I mean, I've heard stories of this, and I've had friends tell me like somebody's together with somebody, and they've been together for 5 years, and they never got married, and they have kids, and then they move on to the next relationship, and within 6 months to a year, they're married, they're expecting. Like, what caused that change, right? What caused all that, right? So I think it's sometimes dealing with being in these relationships and whether or not you see yourself taking any kind of forward movement, and you just stay there and it becomes complacency, and you're okay with just being routine. And
Mhm.
sometimes some people like, I don't want that. I want the fairy tale sometimes, or I want whatever it is. I mean, you don't have to literally compromise your position if that's what you want in life. I mean, I'm somebody like, hey, go if you want to get married, go get married. You get married 5 times. That that's you. You're searching for what it is. Like I said, it's I don't think there is a right or wrong way to love somebody, or right or wrong way to live. But that's just one of them as far as like how relationships start moving forward, and people decide whether or not we move on to the next phase, or it's time to cut bait and start over.
Yeah. Or you can be like me. I was with somebody for 3 years and he never said he loved me and never proposed. And I just kind of put up with it. And I think some people do, especially when they're younger. I was in my 20s when that happened. But as I got older, I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. So, but yeah, the younger you are, sometimes you might stick it out longer than those 2 years. But as you get age and you get a little bit older, most people are not going to put up with that for more than 2 years.
Yeah, and just like Yolanda saying, some people I've heard this story. Some people were together for years, and then they finally get
Get
married, and
married
then what?
and then
And
they get a
divorce.
divorce.
Like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My dad was married or was with my stepmom for years before they eventually got married. But he did, and they stayed together. But some people do. They will wait for years before they get married.
yeah. But hey, there's
And
good news.
some stay together, some
That
don't.
yeah, there's good news though, and that's what we want to talk about this evening as well. It's not just about doom and gloom, right? It's not just about relationships get to a point where you just fail, right? There's
So how are we gonna reignite the flame?
that's right.
So how are we gonna rekindle it?
Uh,
Okay, so we really want to research this and know this because we know, I mean, we are susceptible to that too. We've been together now 11 months today.
Yep.
It's funny, today is actually my anniversary of my last marriage. So
Yeah.
we got married on leap year in 2012. So I was like, I wonder if I should text him. No, that's okay.
That's okay. Don't worry about that.
But yeah, so now it's actually our 11th month today. And we got one more month to go and we'll be together a
A
year.
year.
So, and we're still together and we're still happy
Happy.
and we still have the new relationship energy. So it's still working for us.
Yeah.
But we want to know more about this because we don't want to have to rekindle and all of that. We want to try to prevent this from happening.
Yeah.
But, we know that we could be susceptible to this too, just like anybody else. So we did some research on it, and so this is what we found.
So as months and years go by, it's not uncommon for feelings to dim over time and for the little things to start adding up. This is what we were talking about, right? You might start feeling more like roommates. I've been in that position, right?
Mhm.
It sucks. I've been
Hey,
reading.
Randy.
Hey, yeah,
Sorry.
hey, Randy. Yeah, I've been reading stories and just people sharing their guts about, man. I feel like I'm more of a roommate with an individual than I am their spouse or their partner, and you might start to question whether or not you're still in love with that individual. But again, there's hope. There are ways that you can go through and rekindle a romance. And I just want to, before I move on to the next one, is say hello to there you go, Goober and Gorgeous. I get
Thank you.
yeah. I guess I should take the Goober part.
Yeah, I don't want the goober one. That used to be my brother's nickname, so I'm good.
You're good on that one. All right. So, but there are things you can do to kind of move through this, right? And this is the wonderful part about love. Even though things can fade and things can change, you still can always reignite something that you've always had. I think it's like anything. People, you know what? I hope most people know what atrophy is, but like if you're just sitting there, your muscles start to degenerate, and they don't. If you don't use them, they kind of just start to get smaller and smaller and fall apart. It's the same thing with with love and your heartstrings and everything else. Like if you don't put those things back out into your partner, into your marriage, or into your relationship, those things start to weaken. So how do you get that back? You have to start using them again. You have to start using that muscle. You have to start stretching. You have to do all the wonderful things that love will bring back into your life.
Mhm.
It's funny that when people will go through this and break up and get a divorce, or they break up with somebody after a long-term deal, and then they find love and that muscle comes back. Like it's like, ooh, they remember everything. That's always still there. It's whether or not you can actually go back and find that place again in your heart, in your mind, for that person that you're laying in bed with across from you. I mean, if you're laying in the same bed, of course, and that can be hard too. But remember why you fell in love, right?
Yeah, so one thing, and I want to do this on our anniversary
Anniversary.
if we can,
Yes.
is go back to our first date because I think that's just fun. So yeah, we plan on doing the first one. So
Yeah.
recreating our first date, the first place we went to, and bringing back those feelings from our first date.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so we
Uh,
want to do that first one.
yes. And
All
I
right.
think that's a good one to start with,
Angel.
right? You know, people will think of back to like they're married, the day they got married. There's always something, there's a special date somewhere in your past that sometimes can remind you, right? It
I know, like today's date. Today, it's reminding me of when I got
yeah.
married.
Well, not all
It's
of them are
29.
good.
Yeah, but
Okay.
at least it's only every 4 years.
Yes. Hello, Rachel. Thank you for tuning in, watching us over there on YouTube. But yes, you go back and you know, the subconscious mind always it finds ways to implant things, especially things that like say a first date, the first time you kiss somebody, the first time you have sex with somebody. I mean, there's just so many things. It goes through our minds all the time. We might be in the kitchen for whatever reason, and something reminds us of something our mother or grandmother used to cook, right? And it boom instantly takes us back. That's how love is, and remembering what those are for you. So yeah, you can
Mhm.
recreate your first date or revisit some place special. That's the first step.
Okay, so the second one, get playful. Okay, so I like to do this. I do it in different ways.
Yes.
So I got a dry erase magnetic board that I put on my fridge, and I leave Gabe notes every now and then. And so he one day decided to leave me a note, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cute." And then I got this light up kind of like it's like a clear glass light up, and you write on it with like colored dry erase markers, and then it lights up and illuminates like part of the room. And so I left him a message on there. So I like to leave little messages for him. And then it was fun for Valentine's Day because I gave him different gifts on different days, so that was fun too.
Yes. But there's so many ways that you can do these things, right? I mean, for us, it could be, um,
Hold on. What did Rachel say for a second? It was the day I found out about Tay. Was it on my anniversary too?
oh wow.
I don't remember.
Hello,
Oh my
Uncle.
gosh.
But you know, there's things that,
I like that memory better.
yes, do that. That's a better one. But yeah, be playful with it. Like we massage each other. We do things that, you know, connect us. I
Mhm,
think we do that constantly. Um, and it's just those small little intimate moments like that that really add up. So yeah, you flirt like you're teenagers. Like I see her and I'll rub my hand on her back, or I'll come from behind her and hug her, and whatever it is.
mhm,
Those to me are that's the gold. That's the stuff I still love to do because
mhm,
yeah, it is just another way to keep yourself grounded together, to keep yourself connected. So yeah, get playful with it. Do things that you're gonna love with each other. It doesn't have to be, oh, Jim Kunkel, what's going on? Loves it in this stream. Absolutely. We love it too. We love you guys. But yeah, that's the fun part about doing any of these things. Number one is that you can just be creative with it. You don't, there's no, I think when you're romantic, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Whether it's something that like buying roses, or if it's something like, again, getting like scented massage oils. There's just so many ways that you can it's having a picnic in a park.
mm.
It's spending an open weekend day. Oh, I mean, spending a open day on the weekend just together doing nothing. There are just ways to
Yeah,
do
we
this.
did that at the Arboretum one day. We walked through the Arboretum, and it was a hot day, but because there's so many trees and there was a breeze coming through, it felt amazing. And we just walked through, we laid in the grass under an umbrella, like we just took the time to and just not even care about the time. Just
Yes.
not even focus on what time it was, just to enjoy each other in the moment.
Yeah.
And stuff like that is so important in a relationship. Oh, and then I just want to say, yeah, I remember that day, but I don't remember the date, and I don't remember even going to dinner, like, at all, so that's probably
That's yeah.
I didn't
I,
coincide the date, but
yeah, blocks it out. But that goes to the next one. Communication is key. Have honest conversations about your needs and desires, and don't be afraid to get a little bit vulnerable. I mean, we have open communication like this all the time, right? And it is
Mhm.
what builds trust and intimacy. Like sharing these conversations between the two of you and just being so open about what it is that you want, what you need.
What you're feeling.
Yeah,
Like, sometimes you might be feeling like there's a distance, but you're too afraid to say something. Like, I think you should speak up. You should say how you feel. And if you don't, it's going to linger and days are going to pass, months are going to pass, years can pass.
yeah,
It's happened to me. So I know years and years and years.
yeah.
So, you have to have these conversations.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you what. I mean, sometimes those things are as simple as, "Hey, I want to go take a shower with you," like, or just communicating what it is that you want. Right? It's your desires. Right? Sometimes it's like, "Hey, I need you to come lay with me," um, or "I want to spend 2 hours on a Saturday morning in bed with you." Whatever that is, like, express that, be open
Mhm.
about that. I think that's where part of it is where they're talking about building trust and intimacy, like being honest about the things you want to do with your partner. Man, there's nothing better than being able to share that part of you in your life and feel okay with it, and they're so receptive to it. It's like, man, it's an aphrodisiac all its own. In At least in my world, it is.
It is. It
Y
is.
yes.
My world
Uh,
too. Yes, Rachel, communication is so important. And I know you guys are struggling right now, and I've been praying. And I saw Dustin posted something not too long ago, and I was like, okay, so he's posting something. It sounds like maybe he's doing okay. And then I didn't get a chance to text you. I've been so crazy busy this week. I was working nonstop before the show happened, and I'm gonna be working nonstop after because I have an assignment due tonight. But I hope everything is going okay and he's feeling a little bit better.
Randy says, "I need a briefcase full of $100 bills." That's be my
Yes, I need that too.
I think we all do it. Wherever you find it, let us know. We'll be there with you, okay? So you wanna go to the next one, baby? One
Um, you
case?
already said all of that.
No,
Yeah,
there's
you
one
did.
more. Touch.
You already said that.
Well, kinda, sorta.
You
Did I?
talked, yeah, you pretty much talked about all of those things. I already read it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Randy. But yeah, hey, touch is magic. Touch is magic. I'm gonna tell you what it is. Like there are moments that we like find each other in our own worlds just simply by having a touch. Right?
I'm touching him under the table right now.
It is.
Just his leg. That's it.
This is legs. That's for love talk on Saturday. We'll talk about that later. But yeah. But these are just, again, these are just a few things that you can do, and there's so many more. um in being able to spend time with somebody, and sometimes it is introducing sometimes professional help. um I love you guys. But sometimes it is like in introducing, like, again, professional help. Sometimes you need the perspective of an outsider
Mhm.
to bring it in, because it can be difficult to kind of communicate between the two of you, because there's been a strain or something that has caused you guys to like break off, like really deep intimate communication. Like it's maybe surface level, like things like we have to cover bills, or we have to, people do that all the time. But it's the other part of being really, really deep and vulnerable with somebody again after being shut off for so long. It's kind of hard. So that's why I like saying couples therapy, marriage counseling, um, just going to go seek individual therapy for yourselves. I mean, there's just so many things that could be added into it that,
Mhm.
again, it can open up
I think,
that
yeah.
line and that bridge again.
I
Right.
think I think you should, do all of those things before you decide, hey, just I'm giving up. I think a lot of people today just, especially if they're not married, just give up real easily. So if it can be rekindled, like I think it is important to try your best to do that. Now, if you're doing it and you're trying to do all these things and it's all one-sided, you're doing everything you can, you're trying, and they're just a grump about it. They complain about it. They tell you, I don't like to be touched. They give you all this like, you know, just totally against everything that you're trying to do, then maybe it's not going to work. Uh, so you can try and try really hard. But if the other person isn't putting in any effort at that point or looking at you like you're crazy, then maybe that relationship isn't for you. And so we will be talking more about that
Yeah.
next week. So next week, we're going to talk
Uh,
about
l-
a little bit
a little
more.
bit, yeah, a little bit more in depth. But again, the whole point of wanting to talk about this is that not all relationships are thrown or should be thrown away, right? Like you were just mentioning. It
Mhm.
sometimes it's taking an in-depth look at what it is that's causing the strain for you both. And maybe it is that, right? You hear that enough. I have a headache. Um,
Yes, I love it when I leave your house. I love seeing you 2 out on the porch together. Like, it is the sweetest thing.
yes,
Yes.
that's a wonderful feeling to see that. But
Mhm.
honestly, I think that was one of the things that I was talking to a good friend about a couple weeks ago, as a matter of fact. He'd been going through like a lot of really hard stuff with his wife, right? And he had been talking about getting divorced. And I sit down and I just started talking with him, and I don't tell him that I do this love stuff or anything. I just honestly wanted to hear what he was talking about, and he wanted to share. So I listened to what he was telling me, and part of it, as I was listening to him share his story, I was like, man, hey, it sounds to me like you guys still have some kind of love for each other. It's just lost somewhere. Um, I just simply made the mention, like, have you guys like really thought about doing like marriage counseling? Like to go sit down, whether it's through a church or if it's through a licensed therapist or something, to at least have these kinds of discussions. He's like, well, I mean, I get part of it. I felt like it was on him. Like, I don't know if I could be open about it. And I said, it it's amazing what you can do when you start opening up and sharing. Like, and especially in an environment where you guys can feel safe about it. Um, but I told him, man, go, don't just give up just yet. And I was like, hang on one more day, go pray on it, go see if you can find counseling. Um, and maybe there's just something I think there's always something still good left sometimes in these relationships. We're just quick to activate that fight or flight response. And for a lot of people, it's the flight part. It's like, I'm out of here. Like, that's not worth the fight for me to stay. Um, so if you've gone into it and you've given it your all and you've spent the time and you've done the therapy and you just can't find an agreement between the two of you, okay, maybe then at that point, look at all the other alternatives, divorce, separation, all the stuff that you might have to go through. But yeah, I'm somebody who's like, hey, keep giving love a chance. Because there are stories out there of people like we were so close. I mean, even our pastor at our church tells us we were at a breaking point. People get to a point in a relationship that there's something that's causing all the stress, all the tension, and it's the external factors. And sometimes it's taking an inward look between the two of you to figure out what that is. And then, yeah, it's salvageable. It can last.
Yeah, he's talking about our pastor. Like, our pastor was at the breaking point of his
His
marriage.
marriage.
So and he went through the counseling. He went through, joined a community group and tried to find, answers through prayer and through counseling and through everything. He not only rekindled his marriage, but I mean, the way he talks about his wife and she's always there with him, and they just have this beautiful relationship now. And he struggled for a while in the beginning of his marriage. So yeah, he shared his personal story. And so, yeah, I mean, it's possible to rekindle the romance and to not give up.
Yeah. And it's again, it's just one of those things that sometimes it takes a little bit of work and effort. And for some people, they're not ready to invest that. And I guess you could never know what could really come out of it. Um, maybe it's time. Maybe in some instances, yeah, it's the right move. It's time to move on. Like it's so you know, and I'm just talking about really just mostly like emotional. Like if it's in a physical thing, get the hell out of there. Leave.
Yeah, if there's
Hey,
physical or mental abuse, that's different. So we're not talking
about
about
that.
that.
We're just
Mm-mm.
talking about the emotional part of somebody's
Yeah, and we
connection.
we discussed that on trauma
Oh, bonding.
bonding.
Yes.
So if you look at our trauma bonding episode, that basically explains what happens when you're in that physically or mentally abusive relationship. But in just a relationship where there's distance that's happened and relationship has it's faded a bit, then that's different. That's something that is possible to rekindle. Like
Yeah.
you can, especially if all of the reasons why you fell in love were real. If you were truly your identity in the beginning and you were real with yourself, each person was real, and you formed that amazing relationship and just something has changed, then you can work on it. You can absolutely work on it.
Yeah. And like excuse me, in terms of where we're coming from, we're learning ourselves because right now I mean, we're not facing this issue. And like she said in the beginning, like we want to be proactive in our relationship. So yeah, we want to also be very cognizant of any signs, any indicators or any things. Like I don't foresee it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's always something good to learn. And I
Mhm.
think that's why I like talking about it and expressing it and sharing all of these subjects and what we're discussing here is also helping us learn um, what our relationship is and how our bond has continued to get stronger with each passing day. I mean, we love spending time with each other. We look forward to our moments. I mean, we even look forward to doing this, even throughout the busy schedules that we have. Like everything can be so busy, but
Yeah, I was up till after 1 making my lessons for the rest of the week, and I have, oh my goodness, I have a principal coming in tomorrow to observe my classroom, and so I was like preparing for that and making sure I had everything right. And then I have I have a paper due on
these guys are
Sunday.
fun.
I have a discussion due today. I have another assignment due in my other class. And yeah, I'm hanging on, but I love this show so much. I wasn't gonna give it up this week. So definitely wanted to do the show tonight, despite my tired eyes.
All right, exactly. Mr. Tally, what is going on, man? Appreciate you stopping in. We're talking about love, so I don't know how much you know about this. It's too mushy for Dan, so I don't know how it will be with you, but hopefully you stick around a lot longer, Mr. Raw. But we love him anyway. Still going. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah,
Excellent.
I mean, that's why we love like sharing all of these conversations with all of you because um we're expressing our own love and how we're learning how to do this together because we're still newbies at it. New oh,
Oh,
that
welcome. Well, you need to tune in next week because we will be talking
yes,
about
good
how
segue.
long we should wait after ending a relationship before jumping into the
Next
next.
one, yes, it's like it segued perfectly. He
Yes.
knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
Checks in the mail, Mark. uh but that is a lot. Yes, it is, Yolanda. It is a lot, but I think it's like anything. It's why we even reduced back. Like we were doing 2 days a week. Um, and we decided to go back to once a week.
He decided because he knew and saw how much I have to do, and I was like, at first I was like, "Why?" Like, I really like doing 2 a week, and he's like, "Well, so you can focus more on school," and I was like, "Oh, that's so considerate," and
Yeah.
so, yeah, he really thought about me when he wanted to move it to once a week, so
Yeah,
that's why
because
we're just doing it on
it is a
Thursday.
lot of it is a lot of work and it's a lot of pressure to do this. And even with once a week, right? She's starting to realize like, oh my gosh, I have a principal, I got all these other things. Could you imagine how we have to do two this week? It would have been a lot more stress.
Yeah, and
And
then my dear sister came to visit me yesterday, and so, she wanted to spend time with me, and so I did, and I didn't even tell her, like, the whole time, I did not tell her, "Well, I kinda need to work on some stuff because I love my sister and I wanted to spend time with her, and I hadn't, in a little while." So, she wanted some, quality time with me, and, yeah, I didn't tell her, and so she finally left because she was tired. And so she didn't leave until 10, I think it was like 10:30,
yeah,
and so it was from 10:30 to 1:30 that I was working on my school stuff.
yeah. But it again, it's the whole having these conversations and sharing it and putting it out there. It is a lot of work for those who don't know. We do a lot of research and structure and all the things that we put into this. So we want to give you the best, show that we possibly can, and we don't want to compromise it by saying, "Oh man, we're just rushing into things just to do it." So I mean, and plus, I know my own, I know myself, and I know what it's like to handle all these things. So you know. You guys are wonderful. I know that you'll be waiting for us. Like here we are tonight. We haven't been on in 2 weeks, and yet here you are showing up and
Mhm.
commenting, and we just love it when you guys are part of what we get to share and how we're building out a nice community of people who want to talk about or share love, and you guys stick around for it.
Yes, I love it.
And yes, I just like, oh, I miss my sisters.
No.
You miss them. It's hard. It is hard. But hey, sisters, all your sisters out there, they can watch every Thursday, and on Saturday night. So we still do our Saturday night because it's a bi-weekly thing. We do it every 2 weeks when we don't have our kiddos because we do get a little free flowing and fancy and cut loose with it. So this Saturday we will be going live.
Yeah, so I gotta we go on later, and especially because I gotta get my paper turned in and done and assignments that are due on Saturday, so I've gotta get that done.
Yeah.
And then I gotta go clean my mom's house in the morning on Saturday
Oh,
too. Oh my gosh, my life is nonstop right now, so there's never a dull moment.
no. There is not a dull moment at all. But that's the fun part about doing these things, right? It just keeps you going.
Yes, tell Kathy. That would be cool if she could watch.
Wink, wink. There you go. Hey, we need always need new subscribers, guys. I am working tirelessly to like really get our YouTube channel up to
Mhm.
par. Like, I'm doing so many things to try to make it interactive so that you guys, if you go check us out on YouTube, we have a lot of really good content. There's more things to come. So I am investing a lot of time in that. When I'm not doing these things, I am working on that because I just feel like it's wonderful to have a place to share all this stuff, all this great information, all our own stories and experiences out into the world. And hopefully people find it valuable and useful. Like somebody like Mark Talley, who's now newly divorced. Hopefully that's the, I'm crossing my fingers. He's just playing around. I don't know with Mark. Sometimes it could be, but if he is, there's a lot of great advice on how to go through and get back into the dating world, especially at such an older age in this modern world of how you get back into dating now. What's not like it was back
Mm,
10, 20, not even 30 years. It's so different. It's night and day.
it
So
is. Just with adding technology like a cell phone. Like it has transformed so
much.
much.
So that's
Like,
why the genesis of all this started, because it was like, man, the experiences of doing it. So yeah, if you want to go back, check our past episodes, go subscribe to
and
at
I don't know
Unwrap.
if you're still listening, Yolanda, but you have a good night too.
Yes. So before we go, um, we have again Saturday, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, we do our adult
Love talk.
show. So if you want to tune into that, it's really great. We get to share stories. We read dating advice, dating nightmares, just so many crazy things that can happen and go on when people go out into the world of dating.
Yeah, it's a little cray cray out there, Rachel. So I know I didn't know if I could do it again. Thankfully I did though, because in my situation, I don't want to anymore though. Like Gabe's my final. Like no matter what happens, he's my final
one. Yeah,
man.
same here. And then next week, we will be back live 8:30. Fingers crossed. 8:30 Central Standard Time next Thursday, March 7th. We will be talking love on hold. How long you should wait before jumping back into a new relationship? Because some people, oof, when I started doing the reading and reading some research on it, man, it is the getting back in, and it's just going off our own experiences too, because we had to do the same thing. We got out of long-term marriages and long-term relationships, and just even dating and getting into some of these short-term ones. I mean, it changes
Yeah,
your
and
mindset.
I've dated a lot more than Gabe. Because he was in a relationship for
20
almost 30
yeah,
years.
24 and a half, almost 25 years.
Okay, so like 25
Yeah.
years. And so, in that 25 years, I was, moving from one relationship to the next. So, I know about the whole relationship hopping. Like I did that for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
So,
And I got my fair share when I came back into it. I was like, what the hell is going on around this world? And what is going on in the world of just dating and meeting people all over again? It just, the fabric had changed so much. It becomes so unfamiliar. So yeah, that's why we have all that stuff that we've talked about so far on the YouTube channel. So go head over to @UnwrapLove on YouTube. Follow us. 23 subscribers and growing, but we would love to see that get even more. Please consider subscribing if you're not already. But man, this has been another great show. I've had a lot of fun talking with you again, of course, baby. And I don't know, do you have anything else that you might want to add to the conversation before we say goodnight?
my usual.
What is that?
I love you.
I love you too. Come here. All right, Mark. If you've never seen that, that's how we end the show. That's our sign off. So until this Saturday again, please check out Love Talk, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. I know it's late, but come on, what are you doing on a Saturday night anyway?
Yeah.
Join us, be part of the fun, and we'll see you again the following Thursday, March 7th, for our next episode. So until then, I guess it's good night, everybody.
Good night.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
People call these things imperfections, but they're not. Oh, that's the good stuff. And then we get to choose who we let into our weird little worlds. You're not perfect, sport. Let me save you the suspense.
I guess they can still hear us.
You hit the wrong one.
hit the
Sorry
wrong
about that,
one.
guys.
I'm trying to find my outro scene. I thought I had it in here somewhere. Is it?
Yeah, that's
No.
outro right there.
No, but that's not it. That's for my old show.
Oh,
I don't know where I don't know.
you got so overly organized. You
Oh, hold on. But
filed it somewhere.
I think I do have it here though in our Love Talk here.
Well, that's an intro.
Question, intro video. What I did with that? I know I have.
We never have ended the show like this, so sorry about that if you're still tuning in
This is bonus.
or watched it later.
This is bonus content for you guys. So let me go.
I need more coffee. I'm tired.
I know. I don't know what we're just gonna. You know what? Screw it. I can always go back and edit. Let me just say goodbye with one of my old school scenes. So, I don't know what else to do. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.